Yes, today we will discuss in short about Russian Revolution. So, what we have to write about Russian Revolution? When a question is asked about, write about the Russian Revolution. So here it is about the background of Russia, where it is. Uh, we should write first. That is, it is located in a Europe and Asian continent, right? So it is called Euro-Asian power. First point. Second point, we should write that it is the third largest population. It is the third largest populated country in the world, right? Because it is very large with 156 millions. And here we find several nations were there, and that was called Russian Empire. It was ruled by the Tsars. Emperors in Russia are called Tsars, and it is agriculture, which is the livelihood of most of the people. So there were struggles here between the peasants and feudal lords, because feudal lords controlled the lands. So there was a struggle between peasants and feudal lords. It was the Nicholas II who was the last Tsar in Russia. He ruled the Russian Empire by the last period, that is the early 20th century. So here Russia Russian army was the largest army before to the World War One, and that is up to 1917. It had lost 2 million soldiers and civilians uh, in the World War One, and it became the biggest loser in World War One. There was a shortage of food, because much of the food Russian Empire supplied to the World War One. So such a thing led to shortage of food in the cities of Russia. So to get food sufficiently, on 8th March 1917, 10,000 women in the capital city of Russian Empire, that is Saint Petersburg at that time, they took a procession, a rally demanding peace and bread. So this procession joined by the workers, and it became a major protest, and that was considered by Nicholas II as a rebellion. So Nicholas II wanted to suppress the demonstrators, and that led to a clash between uh, Tsar's army and the demonstrators. So a civil war started in Russia. Due to that, Russia had withdrawn from the World War One. Okay, so here the soldiers who started suppressing the demonstrators, they too joined with the demonstrators. So ultimately, the Tsar Nicholas II left the throne and escaped. After the escape of Tsar, There, a provincial government was formed, and that is the success of a revolution occurred by the March, so that it is called a March Revolution. Actually, Russian Revolution consisted of two phases. One is a political phase, and second one is a social phase. The March Revolution, what we discussed just now, is called political phase because the political system changed in Russian Empire. Earlier, it was Tsar's rule, Emperor's rule, and that was overthrown. In place of it, a provincial government was set up. So, a political change has come with the March Revolution, so that it is called political phase. And another revolution took place in the month of October 1917. That is the biggest revolution. There, it brought change in the social life of the people. There, the liberals and aristocrats who ruled Russia after the Nicholas II abdication, they decided to continue the war, which war World War One, because they wanted to save the honor of Russia. There should not be any name to the Russian Empire that it had withdrawn from the World War One. So there, the temporary government which formed there, it decided to continue in the war. Okay, whereas the common people and soldiers that tried they tired of the World War One. Okay, so they wanted that it should stop the war. So they formed into the certain groups which are called Soviets. What we call that? Soviets. Soviets of the soldiers. It means a group and association with the soldiers, that what we call Soviet. Soviet of soldiers. Soviet of industrial workers. That means industrial workers, they formed a group. People in rural area also formed such kind of societies, such kind of Soviets. Okay. So all these Soviets of the soldiers, industrial workers, peasants, they united by one political party which is based on communism, that is called Bolshevik party. So all the groups, that is all the Soviets, represented the common people's power. That is, they wanted a change in the Russia. So by 1870 to 1914, in Russia, a new leader emerged out, that is Vladimir Lenin. Vladimir Lenin instead. Actually, his name is Vladimir Ilyich Well. So he changed his name to Vladimir Lenin. He was the founder of a Bolshevik party instead. Who was the founder? Vladimir Lenin. Right? So these Bolsheviks, they were able to get the support of these Soviets, because Bolsheviks also wanted Russia should withdraw from the World War One, which was the demand of the several types of societies, that is Soviets. So they demanded for immediate unconditional peace treaty to withdraw from the World War One instead. So here Vladimir Lenin, the leader of a Bolshevik party, he announced certain reforms which will bring change in the life of the people, right? So what are the reforms here introduced by Lenin? You may get a question in examination. What are the demands of the people announced by the Vladimir Lenin or Bolshevik party? You should write that they they demanded that land should be nationalized. That means land should not be under the control of feudal lords. All land in the nation should be under the control of a nation, and such a land should be redistributed to the peasants. Okay, and they also announced that to control over the prices of the goods were very high. So Lenin, Bolshevik party leader, announced that to control, he announced that he will bring down the prices of the commodity. Second demand. Third is that all the factories in the nation and banks will run under the government control. That is nationalization of banks and factories instead. So these are the demands of the people. Okay, and these demands also become the reforms going to be introduced by the Bolshevik party. So the Bolshevik party has got extraordinary support from the people. The Bolsheviks succeeded, what you call, removing the temporary government formed in Russia by what you call 1917. In place of that, their Bolshevik party succeeded taking the power, and it took steps to end the war and redistributed land, right? So that Russia succeeded in what to call ending the World War One by withdrawing from it. Okay, so the civil war which started that there also removed with the success of the Lenin. That the Britain, France, and America and Japan, they were against to the communism. So in Russia, who were not happy with the communist ideology, they were receiving the support from Britain, France, and America. So all these were defeated by 1920. So the Bolsheviks succeeded, and they also announced that Russian Empire ended. Russia was an empire earlier to this Bolshevik Revolution or October Revolution instead, or social phase, right? So here this Bolshevik party announced that whichever the nations were there a part of the Russian Empire, they turned to independent nations, right? That is Kazakhstan, Ukraine. So many nations were there in a earlier Russian Empire. That is Ukraine, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan. All these they turned to independent nations after the success of a Bolshevik revolution. Okay, and all those nations which came out of the Russian Empire, they moved with communism, joined to the Russia to have a similar kind of government. So there a major union was formed by all those nations once which were the part of the Russian Empire in communist government that turned to Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. This was set up in 1922. You may get a question there to expand USSR, right? It may come for 1 mark, that means 2 mark. You should write that Union of Soviet Socialist Republics when it is formed, when it is set up in 1922. Okay, this was the what to call Lenin's Bolshevik party, which brought end to the Russian Empire and given way for the formation of USSR. After the Lenin, there Stalin has come to power. Who has come to power? Stalin. Stalin wanted to see the major development in Russia. So after the death of Lenin, who died in 1914, sorry, in 1924, who died in 1924, not 1914, who died in 1924. Okay. After the death of Lenin, Stalin emerged the leader of the Communist Party. For next 10 years, he ruled the Russia with absolute control and put end to all the oppositions. He became undisputed leader, and he used this absolute power to build the economy of USSR. USSR began its program of economic development with 5-year plans. You know that what is mean by 5-year plans. So with the 5-year plans, their Russian economy progressed very much. That means in the first 5-year plan they introduced in 1928, that success, that given success in USSR. Stalin introduced a program for economic development, that is twin policy of economic development. What is the twin policy of economic development? It is fast industrialization and collectivization of agriculture. This is called twin policy. This twin policy helped for the economic development of the Russia. So by observing the economic development in Russia with the 5-year plans, Russia has earned a good name in the world. It's a success in economic development, inspired many of the world nations. The experiment taken by the Stalin in Russia, that is USSR, inspired people all over the world, uh, where it given importance to the idea of equality and national liberation. So these people, it is Russian people, uh, they succeeded overthrowing the Russian Empire and establishing a new government in which all are nationalized. They got land, they introduced 5-year plans so that the Russian economy developed very much. Understand? So in this way, we see that there the progress in the economic development of Russia inspired many of the people, especially what to call our Indian leaders, that is M.N. Roy, uh, and what to call Rabindranath Tagore, Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, all these were inspired. See, we do not like the communism, but some of the aspects of the communism much more inspired our leaders, right? Communism also believes to suppress the opposition political parties, but we do not like this one. That means we are not favor of communism, but some of its ideals inspired us. Okay, many people were also horrified by the violence used by the USSR to suppress the oppositions. The Communist Party in Russia also suppressed opposition parties and also denied the multi-party democracy. It removed the freedom in the USSR. So there, one writer called George Orwell, he wrote a novel in a satiric way on the government of the Russia and Russian Revolution. Uh, it's a what do you call the people suffering with the Russian Revolution in his novel Animal Farm. Okay, what is Animal Farm? You may get a question. Then you should write that it is a satiric novel written by George Orwell to highlight the ideals of the Russian Revolution, uh, which is given sufferings to the people. Okay, this is what to call the Russian Revolution. Okay, you may be asked that what is a Bolshevik revolution? Then you should write about the social change. If it is asked that to explain the Russian Revolution, then you should write about March Revolution and October Revolution. For 1 mark, you may get expand USSR and the twin policy and what is animal farm, right? And what were the demands of the people during the Russian Revolution? Yeah? These are some expected questions in examination. Okay, and some more 1 mark question, sorry, 2 mark question you may get that what is communism, what it stands for. Okay, communism is an ideology started in Russia where it opposes the opposition political parties and also suppress the what freedom of the people. It denied the multi-party system. It believes in violence. You know, that is the what communism. Okay,